All right, we are back here live on Radio Row here, day number 5 at the Moscone Convention Center, and I am joined by a very special guest and a good friend. We follow each other on X, and I'm proud to say that when it comes time for the big fights, he never leaves me outside the parties any longer. Uh, Joined by former Showtime Sports president Stephen Espinoza, now a consultant for PBC, professional boxing champion. Is that correct? Fighting. So, what brings you to Radio Row once again? I know you got the Mike Tyson Invitational going on next month, I believe, in March in Las Vegas. So, talk about that and what brings you to Radio Row once again.
So, I got.
And thank you for joining me.
Oh, happy to do it. Look, I've had a long relationship with Mike. I was his attorney, obviously, for about 10 years. So I've known him 25 years. And this is his latest passion project. You know, he's been focused on, building boxing back up, starting with the grassroots. So what he's doing is launching a series of showcase events. First one will be in Vegas, March 12th through the 14th. It's a showcase featuring probably somewhere between 35 and 40 of the top U.S. amateurs in the sport. And his goal is, A, to elevate amateur boxing, give it a spotlight, get people to start following young boxers earlier in their careers, and to support them because, candidly, the performance of U.S. amateurs in the Olympics hasn't been great over the last, few years. So, Mike has strong feelings about how these fighters should be developed, how they should be marketed, and he's putting his money and his time where his mouth is, launching the Invitational. It'll be open to the public. There'll be tickets available. There'll be plenty of ways to see it. But that's sort of Mike's focus right now is rebuilding the amateur program here in the U.S.
I have got to ask this question. I remember watching, it was probably Sunday when I was traveling here, seeing a clip. I think it was 1984 or 87, but Hagler Hearns, of course, in the famous first round, where they just destroyed each other. He said had 14 more rounds to go. Where has boxing lost its edge and basically the excitement that UFC or mixed martial arts has now taken up the mantle for?
I think it's a couple things, but I think I think the lack of organization and structure has caught up with it. It's one thing when, you're in the 60s, 70s, 80s. And even at that point, NFL wasn't huge. It wasn't what it was Correct. At that point. NBA certainly wasn't what it was at that point. There wasn't as much competition in the media marketplace. There wasn't social media and video games. It was, a cleaner, less competitive market. But as things, and this is a great example. You look at the infrastructure around the NFL. Yeah. The fact that this is Super Bowl, which is a 3-hour game on Sunday, is a week-long multimedia event, 24 hours a day. Not just Radio Row, but parties and sponsor events and appearances, fan festivals. You multiply that across, including what UFC does with their structure. Boxing hasn't been organized enough to do things like that, to move into current modern marketing, to market itself and promote itself the same way. They're just not enough. And so I think over time, it's fallen behind in terms of visibility and becomes harder and harder to find and support.
I'd like to say, and I wouldn't even call it pushback, but just from my vantage point from going and watching, after the Fab Four, including Duran and Sugar Ray Leonard, there was Mike Tyson and eventually Evander Holyfield, but it seemed like outside of those two, when it came to, and a lot of times I think people, rightly or wrongly, can fault the promoter Don King and Al Heyman and others during that era, to where it was like everybody was being so greedy when it came to putting the fights together that we thought fights would end up taking place, but ended up taking place much longer down the road than what it should have. And so you didn't get a chance to see the matchups when everybody was, to me, were at their peak. And then also, as you mentioned, especially with the Golden Gloves and the Olympics, it's like there was never a real push or no promotion, saying to get young people involved like that. Because I think back to where, like, in baseball, you have the RBI league program going up and stuff like that, to where you don't really have it. I mean, I guess you got AAU, but I mean, and I don't know, maybe greed to me is what did boxing early on, because again, look how long it took Floyd Mayweather and Oscar De La Hoya and Manny Pacquiao to finally get a fight together. And so, I mean, I don't know if you agree with that. Or
no, there's definitely it. And that also comes back to the lack of organization, the lack of cooperation within the sport. Networks, became an issue as well.
Because, Showtime, HBO,
because once the promoters started doing exclusive deals with networks, then there's another obstacle to making those big fights, because someone's exclusive to HBO, another guy's exclusive to Showtime. So that's one of the things that ultimately delayed Mayweather Pacquiao. So there's plenty of fingers to point, but I think there's a reset going on, both in terms of where boxing, how you watch it. It's not HBO, Showtime, ESPN anymore. It's a whole range of other places. There's the Saudis coming in. There's Zuffa coming in. There's new promoters coming in.
Is that good or bad for boxing? And because I guess my question would be now, how is that any different than what it was in the 80s and 90s when you had, because again, initially all the big fights were on ABC, Wide World of Sports and stuff, and then it went from there to it wasn't even paper, it wasn't called pay-per-view at the time. Closed circuit.
Yep.
Man, I dated myself. Closed circuit and then pay-per-view, and then of course HBO, Showtime, and then those shows, those versions of pay-per-view. So, I mean, is what's taking place now any different than what it was before?
I think it's a different approach. I mean, the Saudis, have all the resources in the world, and included they're making some fights happen that wouldn't have happened otherwise. I don't see the organizational structure around them in terms of the marketing, the promotion, like the smooth running of the operation. Now, Zuffa, they obviously have an entire organization and a template and a way for organizing the possibility. So maybe some of that will work smoother. But by the same token, like it seems like some of their approach is to decrease the visibility of the fighter, to make it more about the brand than the fighter. And, that may be the right thing. It may be the wrong thing. Personally, I think that, if you're going to watch a 12-round fight or a 10-round fight, you need to be personally invested in that fighter. You need to know that fighter. And I think you're going to need to market the fighters in a very significant way. And that's the way the sport has always been most successful. So, look, there's different ways of doing it. It's a bit of an experiment. We'll see. I'm not sure anyone has the key to success, down pat yet.
We are joined by Stephen Espinoza. He's the former president of Showtime Sports. He's a consultant now for PBC. So I guess now my other question is, because I've been fortunate enough to come out to some of the events that you all have had in Las Vegas. I'm wondering again, is boxing going the same way as it was before, where you had the IBF, the WBA, the WBC, and then the WBO, and now, and so I mean, how is that working with PBC? With all, again, you got all these organizations, and then your fighters that are contracted to you all or PBC, and then
it's ironic in a sense, is everyone sort of pointed as the belts as a problem, but everyone who's come into the sport, even those who have pointed as a problem, have continued to down that same path. Now you've got the ring belt, you've got Riyadh season, you've got those. Even the guys at UFC have been very very critical of boxing too many belts, but all of a sudden they have interim belts, they have a BMF belt, they've got all these types of things that they've sort of vilified boxing for. So at the end of the day, I think the good thing about it, the sanctioning body, is you have relatively independent organizations. Now, look, I understand there's criticism. Some organizations are tied more to some promoters and seem to favor more promoters. There's inconsistency in the rankings, inconsistently in how they are sort of enforced. in terms of mandatories and things like that. But what I think is good about that is you have independent people. Like I don't want the promoter doing their own ratings and determining who is
Right.
who's moving up in the ratings and who gets title shots. Like to me, I'd rather an independent rating organization, even though some that has flaws, provides, a pathway separate and apart from your business partner and the promoter who's got a different vested interest in those. So I think there are parts of boxing that do work well, or at least have favorable impact. I think those should be maintained.
We're joined again by Stephen Espinoza. I see my mom watching. Hello, mother. I see the note that you left. So there's your shout out for this.
Always got to take care of mom.
Always. So I want to ask you, when you were president, or looking back at your time, if you could do something over or do something better, any regrets or success, what would you feel like you've learned your time away if you were in that same role again?
That's a fantastic question. I think having done it again, look, I would love to have been able to work with more promoters.
Okay.
Some of that I'll take as my fault. Some of it is sort of situational. Like, at a certain point, I couldn't work with Top Rank. Top Rank was exclusive to HBO, and then there are other promoters exclusive to the Zone. There were others, but I think I don't think it's particularly good overall for any network to be beholden to one promoter or vice versa. So I think, in a healthy one, every promoter has access to every network. And if I could wave a magic wand, I would, put that back in place. So, you don't have a Top Rank network and a Golden Boy network and a PBC network, but that everybody has access to all.
Nice. Before we get you out of here, talk about the Mike Tyson again, where people can.
Yeah, if you're interested in hearing more, like who's fighting, how to get tickets, where to watch, MikeTysonInvitational.com is the website, MikeTysonInvitational.com.
But also you got a fight coming up next month too.
We have just announced day before yesterday. We've got Fandora versus Thurman, which speaking of marketing and supporting the sport, you can't have a better salesman than Keith Thurman. He's a fantastic interview, a really talented fighter. He's got a big challenge in a 6'6" guy in front of him. But I'm excited. Fandora is rarely in a boring fight, and the same could be said for Keith.
Mr. Espinoza, always a pleasure talking
to you. Good to see you.
And hopefully, if you all are doing something Radio Road, that like I told Steve, I said I hope my number gets called to come out there.
Absolutely, and we'll hope to see you in Vegas soon.
All right, sounds good. Thank you so much. We'll be back at this time out. We'll be right back shortly with Stephen A. Smith. Yep. Well, Stephen A. Smith is coming right now, so. Thank you, Mr. Smith. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I know you all waited so long, and we finally got the match that we wanted. Mr. Stephen A. Smith, thank you so much for joining me.
My pleasure.
Darren Smith. Look, I know we got short on time, so I want to ask you right away, where do you feel like Kansas City faltered off this past season?
Listen, I think that Rashid Rice being suspended for the first 6 games certainly hurt them. I think them not prioritizing and sticking with the running game hurt them. Obviously, Travis Kelce, he had a damn good year, but not up to Travis Kelce's standards.
Yeah.
And as a result, Patrick Mahomes tried to do a lot more than he needed to be trying to do. We all know he's phenomenal and great and all of this other stuff, but he's not going to go out there and just lose. And so because of that, you got to give him the requisite weapons. I think they got to look deep inside themselves and decide what little modifications and tweaks they need to make, which I think they will do. And then we'll get back to it. Sometimes, when you have that much success, regardless of what people may think, you kind of take it for granted. It's kind of a foregone. I'm sure they never imagined themselves missing the playoffs, but that's what happened.
The Chiefs bring back Eric Bieniemy. I was a huge proponent of it the last years for him
I
not
love
even
it.
leaving. But your thoughts on his
Well,
return?
first of all, I hope it's nice to see him back. He's no running backs coach. He's a damn offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's nice to see him back in Kansas City. Here's what I'm hoping. He's done too much to contribute to the success that the Kansas City Chiefs have achieved. Even once Patrick Mahomes was there, that he should be the successor to Andy Reid.
I agree.
If he's not brought there to be the successor to Andy Reid, I need an explanation for that because he clearly knows football and he's done too much to not be. I want to see that.
How do you see the Chiefs bouncing back next season?
Patrick Mahomes will be all right. Once he's out there, I ain't worried about them.
Well,
I mean, listen, Andy Reid is a great coach and a great man. And Patrick Mahomes is still the best in the business. I don't give a damn how he struggled. He's a winner. This man's a 3-time Super Bowl champion and a 5-time Super Bowl participant. He is the real deal. And I think that this salty feeling that he has where they miss the playoffs, one thing to lose in the playoffs, is another thing to miss it altogether.
Yeah.
He ain't going for that. He'll be back, and I think they'll be in the lab and they'll be better than ever. And I'm not really worried about them.
When do you actually crash? Because, obviously you got the first take and then you got the show and then, of course, you do your podcast and then the NBA stuff. So do you really crash every night? Because I know you can't stay up like this.
I get my
all
sleep.
time.
I get my sleep. I'm in good health. I'm in good shape. I've been taking care of myself. And so because of that, obviously I would like to get, ideally, if I could get 7 hours sleep a night, which is never, I would be great. But if I could get 5 to 6 hours of sleep, I'm pretty good. And so, you just got to sleep. You got to take care of yourself. Prioritize your health. Try to eat better. I'm never going to eat fully right because I'm a sugar addict. So I never get completely off of it. But I'm a lot better than I used to be. And so because of that, I'm in the best health that I've been in since my early 30s. And I'm feeling really good right now. And as long as I got the energy, I love what I do. And so that's what it's all about.
I do want to ask you one question, and I would be remiss as a journalist not asking you this. Of course, you do your podcast where you talk sports, culture, politics.
Yes.
If you could take anything back, because I had Jamel Hill and I had Kerry Kippen on this week, would you take back, I guess, some of the comments?
No,
what? Okay.
I'm not taking nothing back.
Okay.
When it came to Representative Jasmine Crockett, I would take back the tone in which I was asking a question because what I was trying to do was point to what she needed to do to make sure to offset the vindictive tendencies of our president and to ultimately position herself to win the Senate seat in Texas. That's what I was trying to implore her to do. I didn't do a great job of that because my tone was taken the wrong way. I've never done anything to Kerry Champion. I've always been a supporter of hers. I've never done anything to Jamel Hill. I've always been a supporter of hers. And I think that people out there need to start waking up and seeing, particularly when it comes to people who used to work at ESPN, some of the things that they say. It's not just them. It's Keith Olbermann. It's been Dan Patrick and others. It's amazing to me how people depart from ESPN and treat the talent there like we had something to do with y'all being gone. We didn't have anything to do with it. And a lot of times there's internal stuff that transpires, which is none of anybody's business outside the walls of ESPN, where talent gets lumped into stuff that we had nothing to do with. And you didn't take it out on them. And instead you took it out on somebody who's in front of the camera. It's an age-old trick. It's unfortunate. I'm not saying who's done what. I'm not getting into all of that because it doesn't matter. Let them do what they're going to do. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. But in terms of my support for my community, as a black man, what I love about black people, my contributions to our community, which will always be tireless. It will always be consistent and perpetual. There's nobody that's going to convince me that I don't care, I'm disrespectful, and I don't do what it takes to look out for my community. I've always been that guy. I'm going to always be that guy. And anybody who says otherwise don't know me or doesn't care to know me and just wants to go with a BS narrative, let them live their life and I'm going to live mine. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing.
Stephen A., appreciate your time.
Take
when you
care.
come to Kansas City or you need a Kansas City guy on your show, I'm your man.
Thank you, man.